Hey guys, welcome back to Chris and Retro. Tonight's video, I'm going to focus on a local event that we've had in recognition of Overdose Awareness Week. You may or may not be aware that that's what's going on, but it is this week, and it's an important week for us to focus on a very serious issue in our communities. Whether you're struggling with addiction or not, 1 in 3 adults will have some kind of impact relative to overdose and drug addiction. It's here, whether you see it or not. It's here, and if it's not you, it's somebody you know or at least acquainted with it with 1 in 3. And I think they said it's like only a few degrees of separation from you being with somebody you care about that is involved in it. I certainly am in the throes of it here, and I can tell you it's a very painful world to live in, and it takes a lot of commitment on all parties to make sure that you're doing the things you need to do to support the one you love. This event was created, I believe this is the 6th annual event of it's a Scotty B Overdose Awareness event. And they had it at Martin Luther King Jr. Park. They typically have it here in Rochester, New York. It's usually pretty well attended. It was started by a lady that I know. Her son overdosed, and Scotty B, he overdosed, and they created this event to generate awareness and support for those that are struggling with addiction in our community. Tonight's event, I had a few observations, but I'll start with a few videos, just share with you a few things. But one is the overriding factor that you can see is that a lot of people that are dying are young. And I'm going to share with you something that Shatterproof had put out, shatterproof.org. I've been an ambassador with them since 2019. You might want to take a look at their website, shatterproof.org. I'm also doing a walk with them in DC on October 19th, if you're interested in hearing more about that. But this is a stat they put out today. I put it out on TikTok for you guys to take a look at, but they're doing a fundraising drive to protect our teens, help stop fentanyl overdoses as they return to school. So we're just getting back to school here in Western New York. As students return to school, the fentanyl crisis poses a grave threat to teens, with 22 U.S. teens losing their lives to overdoses weekly. Help provide education and resources to protect our youth and combat this epidemic. Now, I've talked about this before, where I believe that, one critical source of prevention to what we're dealing with in this community, or in our community, and actually across the country, is prevention related to before you even get into it. I think you're probably sitting there going, no kidding, Chris, but I think that we don't look at it appropriately and recognize that really is the most beneficial place that we can impact addiction. So I'm going to share with you a little bit more on that. I accidentally threw that flag up there, but the most beneficial place that we can get ahead of this, deal with this thing, is get ahead of it before you're getting involved in massive treatment programs. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about this. Now, at the memorial, there's this one section they have, and now people come up with purple flags and they write the name of someone that they know that has passed. And it's just generally put them out in front, but they have these signs up that show by year in our local community here in Monroe County, those that have overdosed and died. Now, again, this is not overdoses. These are deaths because of overdose. So many people that pass away, at least, in our home, Sam has not passed, thank God, but she's had a number of overdoses over time. And it seems to be more prevalent as she's getting older. There's only so much you can do to yourself before your body just can't take it anymore. And she'll go through long seasons of not using, then when she uses, her body just is unable to cope with it. And so she'll have issues. Now, these individuals, these are ones that actually passed, and only the ones that were actually able to show up here. So I'll play this video for you real quick, and you can get a sense of what was going on here. So there's names on each one of these flags. Now, I didn't take time to read every one of them, and I probably should have. But I thought it was a pretty vivid example of exactly how serious this is. That's just in our local community. And I pulled up some information. Now, the encouraging news is, and I have some speculation about this, but, during the pandemic, we went through the roof with overdose deaths, and you can imagine why. People really panicking, losing their mind, mental health crisis. We've talked about mental health crisis in youth and how many people have had impaired depressive events that led to impairment. We've talked about that in an early on video, but I'll share with you a few stats. Now, there are states that the only states that have actually gone up with overdose deaths are Washington State, Oregon, who has legalized many hard drugs, Nevada, Hawaii, which surprised me actually, Wyoming, Utah, Alaska, Colorado, another widely legalizing state, and Iowa of all places. in the middle of all that, Missouri had, I guess, had some unreported data, so they were possibly, having some issues as well. But those are the only ones out of all the states that have actually reported increases, which is encouraging in some respects. But let's have some real context here and look at the numbers. In 2014, okay, that's 10 years ago, we had 10,457 deaths for the entire year from overdose. 10,000. 6 years later, we had 93,655 in 2020. 2021, that number jumped to 107,622. In 2022, it jumped up to 111,029. In 2023, they reported out 107,543, and we can all applaud that we are now done. We were dropped 4,000 people in 2000 from 22 to 23, but it's still on par with where we were with 2021 at 107,000 people. In 2024, we're tracking at about 103,000 people, so it's another 4,000 drop, but it's still 10,000 ahead of where we were in 2020. And almost 100,000 ahead of where we were 10 years ago. Now, I appreciate the fact the numbers are going down. All lives matter. I'm glad that we're finding victory on that. But there's a couple things we need to consider. Is just because the death numbers are going down doesn't necessarily mean we should be applauding that we saved 4,000 lives. I'm glad we did. However, what's their quality of life? How many times have they overdosed to the point they got to death? What damage has been done up to that point just to kick the can down the road and them being continually using harder and harder drugs to the point they're gone anyway? Now, I'm not saying throw the towel in at all. I'm just suggesting that we can't just look at overdose deaths and say that when that reduces, somehow we're having victory, because that's just Narcan doing what Narcan does, or buprenorphine doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's not necessarily victory, in my opinion. Some other observations I had is that at this event, it's the first time I've seen such low attendance. It seemed real low attendance. Now, granted, I was not there at 3 o'clock when it started. I was there about 5:30, 6 o'clock. It went till 8. There was not real heavy political involvement. Every other year, there's county executives and mayor and law enforcement leadership from the county and the city, and just very visible people. And the only person that was there this time was Robert Kent, who happens to be very involved in the recovery community as an attorney. He used to be the head legal counsel for OASIS, which is New York State's substance use program, or a substance use regulatory body. And then he was assigned to the Biden administration to head up their opioid efforts. So and now he's doing consulting work. He was there, and but he's always at these types of things. And he's the one that's been pretty dedicated to it, but there was nobody else there that had any influence at all. The energy was real low in the booths. There was tons of booths there, but everybody was just kind of there doing their job. And in fact, you heard live music in the background. If there was no live music in the background, there really wouldn't have been much going on. It was really troubling to me to see the energy so low when a few short years earlier, it was buzzing there. So the workers, I feel, are few, and they're exhausted, and they're overwhelmed. I look at our situation and just getting the help that we needed to get for Sam. She went to 2 different rehabs first and was discharged after her detox and was not given any additional support, which left her to cause herself more and more problems. And so had they kept her, she wouldn't have had the massive problems that she now has on her plate. But they decided to discharge her for no apparent reason at all. And it's just because they don't have the programming in place. So now the program that did keep her, it's great. And she's doing excellent. However, the problems that she now has to face are pretty substantial. There's the stresses, the streets themselves, they just never change. It's the same hustle, same flow. So in all of this stuff, all these dynamics where people are getting more tired, and the patients and the clients are getting more inconsistent. They're tough to deal with. They're very complicated. As we start to understand more about addiction, it becomes even more overwhelming because we realize there's so many nuances to it, and the streets never change. That same hustle, same routine. They know exactly how to bring people back in. It's the easiest part of all this stuff is to get a drug addict to use. And that's been the hard part, is that the one thing that has to happen, that's the most valuable thing to happen, is the easiest thing in all of it to happen. So it's hard not to notice that the energy level has really gone down. It's something that's been such a substantial event in our community, albeit less than 10 years. It still drew a lot of attention, a lot of interest. In fact, many of the people that surrounded it have gone by the wayside in the business, including myself. I really am not involved as much in the recovery community as I should have been. So what do we do to revitalize that effort when it seems so hopeless? I mean, I can tell you in my own home, it is a struggle each day to face the realities of what we have to face. Mom not being here, and my my partner not being here, it's just very overwhelming. And, both of us need to do our part to heal and do the right thing, but it still is not easy. So now you add in services that are supposedly here to rebuild the home, and because they're doing these noble things for the kids. And I currently, to follow all the guidance that's been provided, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's it. 8 new people in my life that I have to be accountable to for various reasons to get people to leave our home alone. That's abuse, and it's not helping. At the same time, I have a job. I've got to manage the schedule for the girls. We got school coming up. I've got a kid in college. I've got another kid that's working on his life. I've got my own responsibilities, my own mental health to take care of. And yet all these piles are brought on with this noble notion that we're supposedly fixing something. We're not fixing anything. All we're doing is causing more stress and more problems, and it's not doing a thing because, oh, by the way, of those people that I just named, they don't work well together either. The onus is on me to make sure that all works out. At the same time, I worry about Sam and what's going on there, and I got a system that's proactively trying to separate us, which is not helpful either because neither one of us have an interest in that. And our kids don't have an interest in that. So it has been, when you're serious about it and you're trying to do the right thing, and I can assure you I'm trying to do the right thing for my family, even then it's rough. So now take a situation where somebody's sort of half committed in it and you got exhausted workers, and no wonder the death toll stays well over 100,000. I don't think it's anything to applaud the fact that we're down back to a projected 103,000 deaths this year from overdose, with all the resources and all the work that's been done and all the lawsuits to pharmaceutical companies to get money to go back into treatment and innovation and everything else. And we still really aren't making that much of a difference. I would argue it's because the programs are underskilled, understaffed, and the communication between agencies is absolutely horrendous. Tonight was a night that I went to reconnect with my recovery community, and many of the people that I used to see at those events all the time were just not there. Now, Saturday, I'm going to be going to another one that is in a rough area of the city. And those are people that I do know, and they're wonderful human beings. And they do the dirty work of getting into the dirty streets and help people by getting needles off those streets and giving them sandwiches and handing out condoms and hygienic products and everything else to people that don't necessarily have access to that, to try to reduce the health risks that they present to each other as a start. And in those conversations, they present hope and help to give them an option in a non-judgmental way. And I applaud that organization very much. And Neff, if you're watching, I appreciate your work tremendously. And so they will be people that I will connect with this weekend and hopefully get a little bit more inspiration than I did tonight. Now, this is not a slam on the Scotty B program, because I personally really do like the people there and I like the program. I was just really sad to see the lower energy and the lack of participation in it this year than what we normally would see, because the situation is every bit as grave as it once was. We're not winning. We're not winning. And even when you're committed and of sober mind, like I have been, once you get put in this system, it is baffling how to manage it all. And I mean, I'm returning calls within 15 minutes and it's still tough to stay ahead of. I don't know how somebody sick and suffering would be able to do it without help. I really don't. Guys, I appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to this video. This is important to me. We're going through a tough time in our home, as I've said before, and I keep telling you that because I want you to know that I'm not talking at you. I've got a number of people that have decided to talk at me during the situation and bestow their advice on me as we go through a hard time. And I appreciate their opinion to a point. And then after a while, I've heard you. I may not have acknowledged it because I might not agree with it. And that's okay. It's my prerogative to do that. I would like you to just understand that I'm just sharing some things that I've learned. It's my opinion about what I've seen and based on how I process information. I'm hoping that it helps you in your journey. If it doesn't, then just take it as a data point that, oh yeah, that was interesting, and walk away, But I'm hoping that the information I share is something that you can find benefit with. You can manage your journey with, at least have a different understanding. And especially if you're not part of the recovery community, hear what I'm saying to you. If you're part of an agency that's supposedly helping people, hear what I'm saying to you. This is not, you can't rules people and separate families and expect to heal anything, no matter how noble the program is. We've all got the same agenda here. We want to make sure that prevention with the kids is there. And one way to ensure kids are going down this road is to put them in an environment where they don't even know where home is. It's wrong on so many levels. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I want to get my subscribers up here and add any comments. Check out TikTok. I've got quite a few things I've been putting on over there. Trying to do some new design work because I was kind of getting bored with the design that was there and it's not working out real well. Tell me what you think about that if you like it. We'll continue to make improvements there as well. But between now and the next time we talk, I'm going to do every single thing I can to stay out of trouble, and that's a promise. And I hope you do too.